The idea of day one is this idea of all of us being broken. All of us blow it from time to time, and we need a fresh start.
Really, there wasn't really a grand vision for day one. What we just really felt God calling us to do was to cultivate an atmosphere of worship.
One of the things that makes day one distinct is the worship environment. We've really created a culture and an environment where people can connect with God.
So when I started, we were still over in Truett. We were still growing in as far as responding to worship.
We wanted to take baby steps these first couple years and just try to take moments in worship to teach people. Here's why we raise our hands. Here's why we kneel at the altar.
And that's when the real growth began. People started to really participate in worship. At the beginning, when we would call to pray by the altar, very few people would come, and so it was slightly awkward. And then as people felt more freedom, those altar calls started getting bigger and bigger.
Over the past 2 years, I have seen day one grow immensely, not only in numbers, but in worship and in faith.
So much of what day one is happens within the walls of that sanctuary. We preach from the stage so often for God to give us opportunities to take what we do inside the walls, outside the walls. And God gave us a national platform. About 1.5 years ago, we were contacted by Insight Media, and they wanted us to be on a top 25 praise and worship album. The publisher listened to them and said, would you guys want to do a record deal? So we signed a 3-year deal with them to release a record every year. So this is the first album that will be, the first full-length album we'll be releasing with Insight. Nicholas and I, a few months ago, flew up to Nashville to meet with the publisher, the producer, and after speaking with them, we just felt like we had to do a live album.
It would have been very easy to make this into a studio album. Walk into a studio with a band, lay down the tracks, but that would not be the reality that we live every week. Every week, we live life with a congregation who loves God, and they're vibrant worshipers. And so that's part of what we wanted to capture, so that their voices would be on it, that they would sing like they sing every Sunday morning.
The title of the album was a lot harder to come up with than we thought it was going to be. Naming something is really tough because it's going to stick with it forever, you know. So I wrote a song called Rhythm of a Love Song. The pre-chorus is really 2 simple lines that say, you made us from the dust. And it just clicked one day where we were sitting around a table together, and I said, what about from the dust?
When God said in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, that from the dust of the ground He formed man. Everything else He spoke into existence. When it came to man, He formed us. He put His hands to create man, and then He breathed life into us.
And from that moment on, we've been called to breathe that back in praises. And that's what this album is about. You know, it's about putting praises in the mouths of His children.
And these songs are songs, and they're really prayers and conversations with God about where we are on this particular part of our journey.
Every band wishes to record an album. It's not just to leave a mark in this world in a way, but for us it's to be good stewards.
There has been a lot that has gone into making this album.
It's a band effort. Everybody plays a huge part in it. They bring us, I always call it a skeleton of a song, and we kind of lay it all out on the table and say, okay, what do we need? What ingredients do we have to add to the song to really make it into what it needs to be?
Sometimes keep it a lot like what he did, and sometimes we completely change it and mess it up into something else.
With every person in the band adding their little ingredients to it, it really adds up to something that goes from a simple song written with an acoustic guitar and a voice to something that churches around the country could really take and latch on to.
God is laying out the groundwork. for Day One. I don't think that we are close to the end. I hope that we're never close to the end. I hope that, that the people of Day One that come long after us can see that we didn't have it figured out, and they're not going to have it all figured out. But the beauty is in learning, and the beauty is in the journey.
To see how excited our congregation is about it, you know, on Facebook and all of our social networking and stuff like that, it's been really neat to see how excited they are and willing to be a part of it. They understand their part that they play in it too.
Caleb writes songs for this church body, right? He writes these songs for Day One to sing on Sunday mornings, and I think it's cool that the people can take it home and they can sing it throughout the week. You know, it's something tangible. It's this is my church. This is what we're doing right now.
My biggest prayer is that our community, first of all, would just embrace him and would receive him as a gift to them and as a gift to God.
No longer is Day One just something that happens on Sunday morning in one location, but the influence, value that we'll have to share this music with churches all across the country is a Day One for us. From this starting point, God is taking all of these pieces and parts and personalities and people from multiple walks of life, and He's brought us all together. I think He's taking us as a congregation, as a church. It's First Baptist Dallas, and He's breathing life into this church. And He's developing us, and He's giving us a platform to share what He's doing here with the whole world.
The life we live is the story.